Kansas City Police. So welcome here this morning. What we're going to talk about is our body-worn cameras that we have equipped our patrol officers with, and we'll be equipping more patrol officers with in the coming days and months. It's been a hot topic since this summer for sure. This process, though, just so you guys know, I wanted to go back to the very beginning of this. This has been a process that's been in the works for at least a couple years now. About 2 summers ago, we began request for information, RFI, and a request for proposal, RFP, for a body-worn camera system, knowing that we had to replace our aging in-car dash camera system. So we wanted this RFP, we wanted this system to be compatible with our in-car camera system so that the dash cam system and the body-worn camera system could work well together with each other. We started that about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. We selected a vendor at that time. That vendor is Turnkey Mobile. They were awarded as the vendor, and they distribute a Panasonic branded system. So we began the working through the process of replacing our in-car dash cam system because we had funding for that already with that new Panasonic system, in the hopes that we would get a funding source for body-worn camera system in the coming days, weeks, months to pair with that. This past summer in June, obviously there were high-profile events throughout our city, throughout the country, that raised the scrutiny level of law enforcement and police across our country. The body-worn camera system was something that our community asked for. From the bottom of their heart, they asked us to have a body-worn camera system. It was something that we heard them over and over again saying that they wanted, and it was something that was a priority for us. We just lacked the funding source. We were graciously given a donation this summer from the DeBruce Foundation through the Police Foundation of Kansas City for an amount that allowed us to equip ourselves with a body-worn camera system going forward. So we began that procurement process then towards the end of the summer. At the same time, we also added in a stakeholders component. We know that there are people that are stakeholders that have concerns and have things that they want to see out of our body-worn camera program. So we brought in people from the community. We brought in people from our federal partners, federal prosecutors, Jackson County prosecutors, the surrounding county prosecutors. We brought them all together for several, approximately monthly meetings since the summer, to talk about what they wanted to see from us. What would considerations be for retention of the video? What would considerations be for releasing the video in accordance with Missouri State Sunshine Law? All of these things. How will that play into investigations? When will we turn the cameras on? All of these things were brought up in discussions, monthly meetings that had members from our fiscal division. Major Paul Luster from our fiscal division led those meetings from our side and got that input. And all of that is being gathered together for a policy that governs the body-worn cameras. So that policy is in the works right now, but we didn't want to wait for a policy. When we started getting body-worn cameras, we deployed them out into the street. We deployed them to patrol officers in our Central Patrol, north in Shoal Creek, so both our stations north of the river and Central Patrol. As we started getting them in, we have gotten 340, which was our entire first order of body-worn cameras. We have gotten them in and we've gotten them out deployed. That is where we are as of right now today. Just yesterday at the Board of Police Commissioners meeting, the board approved a purchase of an additional 475 body-worn cameras. Once we receive all of those, that will effectively outfit the entire patrol, all of the patrol divisions. So all the officers out on patrol in our city will be outfitted with body-worn cameras at that point. So that's where we are now and where we are looking forward. I think right now, do you guys have any questions about that process and how we got to where we are right now?
I've got a question about the policy. Do you know when the policy is kind of going to be, put together? Because we haven't seen a whole lot of it. Is it draft or something like that?
Correct. Yeah. So it's being drafted right now. There are discussions that the executive committee gets together and has discussions around the policy. They put things together. It has to be shared with our FOP per our MOU with our FOP. Then it is sometimes presented to the board, or sometimes it goes back and forth a little bit. The goal right now is for that to be presented, and correct me if this hasn't changed, at next month's board meeting, for that to be presented for their approval. They may approve it, they may send it back, they may want changes. If anybody watched the board meeting yesterday, there were 2 policies that were sent back for changes to be made. But we are pretty far down the road with that policy. The good news is for years we've had dash cameras in our police cars that have produced video associated with investigations, associated with police contacts with the public. So we're not reinventing the wheel here. It's video that we have in our system that some will be available for public viewing and some will be part of ongoing investigations. So we have that framework in place. A lot of those retention and releasing and how we manage that video, a lot of that's in place already with our in-car camera system, so it'll look very similar to that. As an example, right now we store all of our camera footage for 1 year. That's what we're storing it for right now. If that needs to change based on storage amounts because of how much video is coming in with our body-worn cameras, then we can adjust that. And some of that will be outlined in the policy about how we will handle that. But that's how we are right now because we had those things in place. So we were able to roll out this body-worn camera program in a way that is kind of matches with our in-car dash camera program that was already in place.
So now let me ask you, I just want to make sure, with your in-car dash cam system, if somebody feels as though, you know, an officer might have been unruly, would they be able to access that currently?
That's a great, you're talking about the citizen themselves?
Yeah.
So it'd be so if they make an OCC complaint through our Office of Community Complaints, the OCC investigators would access any body-worn camera footage, any dash camera footage, any surveillance camera footage from across the city, and that could be associated with any potential internal investigation as well. That's already in place. The citizens themselves are not granted any additional access than the general public for the availability of camera footage, be it from an in-car camera or from a body-worn camera. Hopefully that makes sense. So the Missouri State Sunshine Law governs what is public access for people to have access to camera footage, be it in-car camera or a body-worn camera. Many times it's part of ongoing investigations, and that camera footage is protected for the sake of the investigation. So it would be part of the investigative file, and it would not be available in an open and ongoing investigation. Once that investigation is closed, the criminal investigation, I'm saying, once that is closed, then all of that investigative file becomes a public record.
So Jake, what is the current policy for officers like Officer White for them to use the cameras? I mean, when do they turn them on? When do they turn them off? Yeah,
it's exactly the same as the in-car camera. So any citizen contact, if they're having any call for service, the camera comes on. Officer White will better be able to explain the functionality of it. The camera comes on when the lights and sirens come on. Officers are responsible for turning that camera on when they have contact with a citizen on a call for service. If they get out on a pedestrian check or stop a car, all of that, they're expected to have that on just like they are with the dash camera, with the in-car camera system.
How do you propose the department will sustain funding for this in the future? How much is this initial cost, and how do you plan on funding this in the immediate future?
That's a great question. I would have to look into from our fiscal. I don't know if the sustained funding, what's the cost now? There was obviously a large initial cost to buy the cameras and the storage and all of that. The ongoing cost, I think, is
It could just be, you know, the storage, as we determine storage rate.
yeah, additional storage.
But
So
the life cycles of the cameras should be 5, 6, 7 years.
okay, yeah. So the hardware themselves, the cameras, 5 to 7 years. So if as we, you know, as those are needed to be replaced, we can budget for that. Hopefully in a you know, kind of segmented way.
How do you think this assuages concerns from the community about officer involvements and their interaction with police officers on patrol?
Yeah, I think it helps. It absolutely helps. The public has called for officers to have body cameras long before this summer, but especially this summer and going forward. They have called for that. We are responsible to be accountable to the public. It is a sacred public trust to be out there, to be a law enforcement officer, to be a sworn member of any police department, to have the powers to enforce the law, to arrest someone, to use force against someone, to bring a situation under control, up to and including deadly force. And the public deserves to have officers that are held accountable when they are carrying out those duties of that sacred public trust. So it is beholden on us to be accountable to the public, and they deserve that. And we hope that they see this as added accountability in this situation. Yeah.
Would there ever be a time that you would that an officer would turn the camera off? And is there some sort of like disciplinary action for turning a camera off at a certain time?
Well, yeah, there's an expectation that it's on in normal context with the public, be it a call or a self-initiated activity, and that's been in place for more than probably 2 decades almost with the dash camera system. There are certain situations where privacy concerns are now in play because the car doesn't come inside a person's house. The car stays where it is. The officer themselves are involved in interactions with sensitive situations with victims. They're doing normal things throughout the course of their day, normal biological functions, things of that nature, to not get too far down the road. But those are times when those cameras would be expected to be turned off. But again, just like the in-car camera system, they capture what is in front of that officer right there in that interaction and the audio, and so they're expected to be on during the course of normal interactions. And that expectation is not anything new for officers that are out on patrol. They are used to operating in that environment because they've had a microphone pack and a camera in the front of their car for the vast majority of all the officers that are out on patrol for their entire career.
Jake, I do think there is a worry, though, that if something bad happens, right, and there's some concern from the public, I think there is a worry, what happens if the camera was off and there's no footage of this incident where there's a lot of public interest? What would happen in that case?
Sure. Those would be a case-by-case basis. Obviously, we have an expectation of when those cameras are supposed to be on and how they're supposed to be maintained. If there is a situation that occurs and through OCC or through internal affairs investigation or through criminal investigation, it is reviewed and that there would have to be a justification from that officer about why that camera is off. And that would be thoroughly investigated by either OCC, internal affairs, or criminal investigators, depending on what the course of the situation is. But it's a case-by-case basis. There is that expectation. It is set. It is in place. If for some reason that camera footage isn't there, there will have to be a justification. It will be asked for by someone for sure.
Now, as you had mentioned, the policy isn't in place. You guys are kind of following what you've been doing with the dash cams as kind of your policy for right now. Wearing it. Are you guys getting community involvement with the new policies that will be in place for these body cameras?
Yes, that's what I had mentioned that Major Luster is undertaking with the stakeholders, with the meetings that have taken place. And there have been multiple, correct me if I'm wrong, multiple members of the public, community groups, as well as our investigative partners, federal and county prosecutors. So yeah, there's involvement from several different people and input from several different people in regard to that. Yes, absolutely.
Is there a way for the officer to edit or delete any video, or is it?
No, the video,
once it's recorded, it's there.
Yeah, it's same as in the car. It's kind of like a DVR. It's kind of like always going. When an officer turns that camera on, then it records it, and that's that video that we have held. And they don't have the ability, like there isn't any editing ability in the car or anything like that. Once that video is held as part of a criminal investigation, then we have the video stored on our server, and we have it for as long as we need it for. But it's available to go back and look. Pretty much, think of it like a DVR, basically. Like you can kind of roll back, like, oh, something happened 5 minutes ago. We can go back and look, or even up to a year ago in those situations.
Can you give us an idea, like, I know obviously the patrol officers were selected for obvious reasons. Why not TAC or traffic would have more interaction within the
They're encompassed within the Patrol Bureau. Yeah. That's all. The Patrol Bureau is all 6 patrol division stations, traffic division. So special operations, that's where tactical response teams fall. And so they're out there conducting proactive and enforcement activity as well. So the end goal is to have all of those officers equipped with body cams.
And why not East Patrol, where the majority of the homicides, non-fatal shootings, assaults, things of that kind? What was the thing behind selecting North Zone and Shoal Creek as opposed to East and Metro?
Central Patrol was selected as well.
I know,
So
yeah.
so North, Central, and Shoal. I mean that's half of patrol. When we get the other half of the cameras, then we will outfit the other patrol divisions. I mean if it was in East Patrol, you'd be saying why not Central Patrol? So I mean I understand the question, but you got to start somewhere, and so we've got them out there. It's more important to get them out there than it was to dial in exactly where they were. So we've got them out there in Central Patrol, North and Shoal Creek, and hopefully our goal is by March, depending on the vendor and the supplier, to have those other 475, and then they'll be everywhere.
How much is it? How much do each unit cost? The cost for each each unit?
I don't know the answer to that. Do you know how much each camera costs?
$700 to $800.
$700 to $800 roughly.
Now, I know in the past, when you guys looked at this, there were companies like Ally Signal were willing to give you those for free at no cost. Any thoughts about how did that approach change? I think is the main cost within the storage of the unit?
The storage is a lot of it. The camera itself does have a cost. Again, we had a request for information and a request for proposal where vendors submitted those responses to those requests for proposals. So all of that was included in there. In that RFP, it was lined out exactly what we needed. If a company wanted to submit a response to that RFP and say, we'll give you everything, then that would have been an opportunity at the time of that request for proposal.
Were there other cities that the police department looked at in terms of how they can match their program to theirs? Like a peer city, to see how their program rolls?
We're always reviewing what peer cities do. Our research and development division has a list of peer cities that they are in contact with, and the project officers are assigned to reach out to them for a variety of things. So they're in touch with that, and that would come into play in something like this too. Again, that research and development division is who is responsible for the development of the policy. So peer city review or peer city discussions is something that comes into play on many situations with regard to policy development. Yeah.
So you guys not determine the cost for storage?
We have made purchase of storage through the course of the procurement of this whole program. Yeah.
How much exactly?
We already have purchased it. I don't have the exact numbers. Do you know what we've paid? Yeah, we'd have to.
Ongoing with the in-car and this.
Yeah, because it was the whole original thing. Not to get too far down the road here with everybody. The whole original thing involved in-car camera, storage, and dash cam. So it was a whole encompassing. When we replaced the dash cam, we had funding already allocated to replace dash cam and additional storage. So we had the storage if we ever secured the funding for the body cameras to purchase them. We have that now. And so it's been a piece-by-piece thing over the last couple years.
With loading the footage now, I just want to make sure that I got this clear. So with loading the footage, it would be on the officer after their shift to make sure that they loaded in. Is that how that works?
Yeah. So when they pull into the station, basically, it's kind of slick. It uploads through the cloud. Basically, is how it works. They can manually take the camera and upload footage as well, but it uploads to the server basically as they get to the station every night. So it's not like, oh, I forgot to do it, and now the footage is gone. That's all out of the equation at this point in time.
And now you had mentioned they've been wearing it since November. Has there been any situations that it's been of good use that you've been able to use it for certain situations?
Oh, sure, yeah. It's been part of investigative files since then. I mean, I would say since the first day, I'm sure. I don't have specific examples or numbers on that, but since the first day, I mean, almost every day, an officer goes on at least one call that becomes part of an investigative case file. If it's a report that they take for even something as simple as a stealing investigation, or an assault investigation, something like that. So the minute those officers started walking out there wearing those cameras, they were getting footage that was part of investigative files from day one, I would say. Yeah.
Which company?
The vendor is Turnkey Mobile, and the brand is Panasonic. Yeah.
How much does each unit weigh?
I'll let her cover that part. Yeah. So, is there anything else that I'm missing from our side? Okay. I don't know if you guys had gotten any follow-up questions or anything. Okay. Is that everybody?
Get out of there.
All right.
Cast them off.
Okay. You got it. This is White.
Hello, I'm Officer White.
What's your first name?
Asha, O-A-S-H-A, White, W-H-I-T-E.
How long you been with the department and what division?
I've been with the department for about 5 years, and I work down at Central Patrol Division.
First day wearing it, what was it like?
It was very different. It's very bulgy compared to obviously everything else that's on our vest, on my vest, but it's bulgy. And just looking down at it was a little different to get used to.
Can you show us kind of what all this entails?
Yeah, so basically this is the body camera. Just one click right here, it comes right off. It slides back on. It has a bunch of different little icons on here. If it starts recording, it'll turn red. There's like a camera on here that turns red, and it lets me know. I can double tap this 1, 2 to get the video to start recording. Or here's our mic pack. They go hand in hand, they're synced. I can push this and it automatically lets us know our recording as well.
Is this hard? Is it an extra step on you guys, or not really? Or?
It's just part of our normal daily activity. It's part of our job. It's just something added, something else that's added. That's part of the job that we have to do. It doesn't take. It's hard to just push a button every day or flip your lights or sirens on and the camera starts recording.
Has there been any feedback from the general public? Have they noticed that some people notice the camera and like talk to you or anything like that?
Yes, they've definitely noticed the cameras and they ask it and let them know that it's our body cameras and their daily activities. It absolutely benefits a lot. Just you have that third person that's there. Usually it's your side, the citizen side, and then you have the unknown. But now that we have the body cameras and they're there with us all the time, there won't be that unknown. It'll always be what happened, what took place during that time on that call.
What is that other smaller flash? Yeah, what is that?
Oh, this. So there's a time like, if I have to go hand with somebody and cause injury and I need to be very specific in my report, I actually upload the video and actually look play by play and make sure that I write the exact, incident that happened.
The police department and your relationship with people that you come across on the streets?
I think it'll strengthen the police department and our relationship 100%. Just allowing that community to have a little bit more trust within the police department, knowing that there's not a chance, that an officer can tell a story or, goes along with it. So you can't steer from what the truth is.
Has there been any surprises since you've been wearing it?
The one surprise I will say is, remember to take it off when I go to the bathroom. That's like, you go to the restroom, you don't think about it. And then as soon as you get into the restroom, you look down, you're like, oh shoot. So I try to take it off, put it in my pocket or lay it face down. The only other thing is it record like maybe 30 to 45 seconds before the camera is pressed to go. So sometimes you'll have that audio going that's let you know what's going on.
How do you spell your first name?
OASHA.
Could you pronounce it one more time?
Asha. Yes, ma'am.
And now have other officers within the department reached out to you and kind of asked some of the folks that actually do have the cameras, have you guys had conversations about it and what have those conversations kind of been like?
Absolutely. Obviously, it's something new, so everybody's wanting to know how does it work? How do you feel about it? What's the pros? What's the cons? And we all give our our take on how we feel about the camera. I mean, personally, I enjoy it. It's just a part of me is how I see it. It's just a part of me. We have our phones in our hands every day. We're always recording. So, there's just another camera in the picture.
Do you feel like it's an added layer of safety for both you and the citizens?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you go into just elaborate on that? How that makes you feel safer?
Well, so for instance, last week we had a call with a lady who she was very combative. And it just shows her combativeness and us being willing to work with her, try to get her to, stop being combative. With that along, there was maybe like 15 other people outside still recording as well. So it just makes you be very condescending on your surroundings, making sure that you're taking good care of people and that you're not treating people any type of way.